What's good? What's poppin'? Welcome to another episode of that deep shit where we connect the dots. And on today's episode, we're going to discuss the densities of cycles. Okay? So let's go ahead and jump into it. So when we talk about the densities, we're going to start within and then we're going to work our way without or outside of us. And then we're going to start from outside and work our way back within, and you'll see how that corresponds in later in the video. Now, since we're going to start within, we have to go ahead and separate the two species of male and female because they are two halves of one whole. Okay, so we're going to start with the males. Okay, so there's always an internal cycle within every etheric being. There's an internal cycle within every living being. There's an internal cycle within every almost conscious being. Okay, so when it comes down to men, we have to understand what our godship is and what our godhood is. Okay, so the essence of God is what? A creator, an operator, and a destroyer. Creator, generator, operator, destroyer. God. Generator, operator, destroyer. Okay. So when you generate, you create. Okay. So basically, how do men create? They project or ejaculate light codes, and those light codes are called sperm. So this happens into a cycle. There's always a cycle. So a man's cycle is every time he gets erect, and which happens quite frequently with men. The cycles are quick. This is why men tend to age quicker or tend to have shorter lifespan than women, because our cycle of how we create is quicker. We run through it. This is why men are more sexual or more ready to create, or essence have sex a lot. Animalistic is just going back down to nature. Our natural instinct is that cycle of always needing to create because it happens constantly, all the time, right? That is a cycle. That is a cycle. When a man does not put out his creation juices, he may get irritable. He may get angry. He may become stronger. There's all these offsets by not creating. You know what I'm saying? There's always duality, and you'll see how duality will always rear its head in this conversation. There's always a duality. Either create or destroy, pretty much. And you can harness each side of that energy how you want. There's different branches that comes off of all of that. Generating or destroy, creating or destroy, right? But it comes in a cycle. When it goes down to women, they have their own cycle. We call this cycle the menses. This happens maybe every 28 days or so. It's a slower cycle, a stronger cycle, but it's a slower cycle, right? And women, correct me if I'm wrong, but sometimes when you're starting to get into that time of the month, you may become uh, ready to create yourself, meaning a little bit more aroused than you normally would be. You know what I'm saying? Because you're trying to create or destroy. You're trying to create and destroy at the same time, but that's your cycle. So it's a cycle. All these cycles, all these cycles actually equate into time, because as long as there's something that's moving, it takes time. As long as there's something that happens or exists, it has to exist inside the dimension of what we call time. So, as you can see, the ancients used a lot of things that kind of correlate with that 28-day cycle. You understand what I'm saying? But that's just the internal cycle that's inside of you. It's an internal cycle. So basically, if your vessel, if we're looking at a microcosm to a macrocosm, your vessel is an entire universe. You know what I'm saying? One atom can be a planet in your universe. You feel what I'm saying? But at the same time, the whole origin of this whole universe that is you, that is regimented or put on a cosmic clock or internal clock, is all based off of your generator, operator, and destroyer part of your body, which is your growing, which is your reproductive system. This is what regulates your cycle or your clock. Okay, so we're going to go outside the human body. We're going to go outside the human body into existence, into this planet that we live on. This planet that we live on rotates and becomes another cycle of time or another cycle of existence that is outside of this cycle. It's just the next sphere of a cycle. You understand what I'm saying? It's the next sphere of a cycle. So this planet rotates, and what we can calculate as it goes around the sun is what we call days or minutes or hours and days. On a 24-hour cycle, you'll see the same thing repeat. So you have a cycle within, and now you have a cycle without. But if you go outside of what we are on, call it the globe, the earth, call it what you want. There's a cycle, whatever you want to call it. There's this ring of time, right? But when you get off of this plane, there's that 24 hours does not exist like that because it's another cycle of time. It is now the placement of where this globe is in its cycle into another cycle that we call the universe, or if you want to say the black hole. You understand what I'm saying? Because the earth goes around the sun goes around another star, that star goes around another star, so it's like cogs in a watch. It's just like this. I don't know if y'all can see the back of that, but it's just like the cogs in a watch. You know what I'm saying? It's the same thing. There's just these cycles upon cycles upon cycles, right? At the end of this, not at the end, but at some point of this cycle that's outside of your cycle, what's outside of the Earth cycle, what's outside of the solar system that we're in cycle, which is in another cycle that all is being pulled in by another cosmic womb called a black hole. You understand? And this black hole has a generator side and a destroyer side. You see what I'm saying? You feel me? So if we're being pulled in, you can call that whatever you want to call it. You can call it a destroyer or you can call it a generator. It's just a cosmic womb because there's another side of that. You see what I'm saying? So I just broke down from within as without, starting from us. Like we are the creators of time because I started from inside and I showed you how to visualize the cycles of time and the densities of time from internal. That thought process of even being aware of that, you have to understand that started from here to even conceive what I just said. But creation also didn't start like that. It didn't start from you. You are a product of that going in the reverse or in the forward motion. So something had a cycle that created a different cycle, that's created a solar system cycle, which created a earth cycle, which has created you in a cycle. So which one came first? This is the age-old discussion of did God create man or did man create God? And when I say God, I'm not talking about a specific deity with a title. I'm talking about creation itself. But the answer is both, because you are the opposite end of creation reverberating back to itself. You're one end of the end, so it can know itself. You understand? And how do we know this? It's because if we take a moment in time, right now, if we take a moment in time, we're going forward, right? We feel like we're going, it has the perception of we're going forward because we're progressing. we're progressing in this time. We're progressing, right? Feel like we're going forward. But I just showed you how time created us. So what are we going forward into? If forward is even a direction, because it's not. It's just what we perceive as progressing, getting older, or time passing. But actually, time is going this way because it created us. So you can see, going back to duality, which I mentioned in the beginning of this video, you can see that time is doing this at this. It's doing this. It's doing this at the time. The current moment, right now, as you sit and watch this video, time is passing you and not passing you. It's you're going into it and you're going in reverse at the same time. Like, so harnessing that energy on both sides of that duality is key and very powerful if one can tap into that. That is the middle path. Understanding that right now is past and future and present. It's all three. This is how you can tap into a whole bunch of clairs, I would say. A whole bunch of clairs, clairvoyance, clairaudience, all that. You can tap into a whole bunch of abilities. Understanding that concept right there, that it's all at once. This is all at once. There is no forward and back. It's just a perception of forward and back, and only use those words to have so you can see it. Because these types of concepts are really hard to put into words. You know what I mean? So, and another thing that's interesting though, right, is because once you start to understand that these concepts all fold in all at the same time, then you can start applying the keys to this moment in time. When I say keys, I mean like the seven hermetic principles, yin yang, uh, any type of definition system that makes you understand the totality of being, whatever you want to call it or whatever you want to choose. Numerology, any type of definition system, what have you. But once you start to realize that, you can realize that, like, say, for example, the five elements. The five elements come into contact with the present constantly. It comes into the fact of generator, destroyer, constantly. So we have to understand all of these principles and use them. All right. So that's my video, and I'm out.